All right. Oh, let's all stand up real quick. Let's all stand up
Right.
and then I'll fucking intro this. Hey, look at this.
Visual.
Look at
Over
these.
here, over here.
Look at these motherfuckers. We got our Whatchu Spinnin hoodies on, which means it's time for Whatchu Spinnin episode 40. A Tribe Called Quest special edition. I'm super stoked. I've been telling a lot of people this week about this episode. I was talking to my boy Alex today because he was like, "Hey, you want to come throw the football around 2 p.m.?" And I was like, "Nah, I can't." I was like, "I would not even be done with this." And I told him what we were doing. He's like, "Damn, that's one of your like OG favorite bands too." I was like, "Yes, yes, indeed."
Yeah.
So I know I'm stoked. How are you guys feeling about today?
Ready, man. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a good milestone, and it's a group that has been immortalized in music in general, so.
Right.
It's true. I was excited when we did the Outcast week, but I feel like Tribe for me is more like it's comforting.
Yeah.
Music. Outcast is too, but like Tribe, I don't know, it resonates with me a lot more.
Right.
So I'm really excited to talk about all the albums that we brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. You know, Outkast, because of how much they were on the radio back in the day, I grew up kind of more familiar with Outkast. But
Yeah, me too. 100%,
But when I
100%.
got older, like out of the house and started getting into like the old school hip hop, I was like, oh shit. I was like, Tribe is like kind of better than Outkast, man. I was like, they're very good.
They started that alternative style of hip hop, I feel like, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And so, kind of like we did with the Outkast episodes, kind of just tell some backstory about Tribe.
Like, when was the first time you ever heard Tribe?
The first time I heard
you remember?
Tribe, oh shit.
Because I do, and I'm embarrassed about it. I'll save my story until after you're done.
I think it was Electric Relaxation.
Okay.
And I was working at Dutch Brothers. Shout out! I went there twice today. I've been up since 5:45, boys. I've been up hella early.
Let me tell you something.
I am Gator trip faded right now. No, I was working at Dutch Bros and was hanging out with this gal that worked there. I ended up DJing her wedding, and her boyfriend put on. He just had like a playlist and put on Electric Relaxation. And I was like, damn, dude, like, Tribe. I was like, that's pretty rad. Or no. That's, like, my first, like, real big memory with it. Okay. No, yeah. That was it. Yeah. Sorry, I have so many familiarities with Tribe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my first time was Electric Relaxation, just sitting there. It was also the first time I took a dab. Burnt the shit out of my hand that night. And, yeah, because, you know, when you set the dab, you know.
Of
whatever.
course. Had to happen.
And it was that gal's birthday, and I heard Electric Relaxation, and I was like, damn, like, these guys are spitting, and that just drum beat and everything, man. So I was hooked from the get-go, and so I listened to a ton of Midnight Marauders before I even dug into the rest of their discography. But we'll say, I kind of want to say that he kind of showed his ass a little bit, so we're going to save his for last.
Yeah, mine's probably when I heard, like, Can I Kick It? Mm-hmm. Probably I heard that somewhere at some point in my life, and I was just like, you know, with it.
Yeah. That was why it took me a while. I was like, fuck, was it Can I Kick It or Electric Relaxation?
Yeah.
And so I had to figure it out.
I really honestly can't, like, pinpoint it exactly when, because it's kind of always, like, I've always been listening to hip-hop and Tribe.
Right.
Who doesn't listen to Tribe if you listen to hip-hop? So
they're like one of those groups that, and especially with rap music, like, once you get into it, because there's so much rap music, that once you get into it, you get into a Tribe Called Quest, you listen to you get like your top 5 songs going, and then they just slip into your constant rotation, and so it's kind of hard to pinpoint. You're like, when did I actually first hear these guys? I can't remember.
I will say the first song I think I heard, I like learned all the lyrics to was Award Tour. I think probably was that song. Like I listened like to it so much that I just knew like all the lyrics to it.
Yeah,
like my first Tribe song that I learned all the lyrics to, but
yeah. Just real quick, the one I think I learned all the lyrics to was probably Check the Rhyme. I would be driving to Veneta to answer emails, and I'd be like, well, here's a funky introduction to how I say. But, I don't know, what you got?
For me, you know, I'm kind of older than you guys. So.
Yeah, a little bit.
So after Midnight Marauders came out, a few years after that, you know, I was still in high school, but we'd go to a friend's house that would let us come over and hang out, and you know, we kind of did our own thing, but he was very into Tribe, and would do his thing with his people, and then we'd be able to hang out and do our own thing. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing a Ward Tour and Electric Relaxation, but not really being into it because I was into like Brother Lynch Hung and like Tupac and like more of that gangster style rap, and I guess I didn't give Tribe a chance, and I regret that because it took me years later to actually get into them.
Yeah.
And, Low End Theory for me was my introduction. Bugging Out and Excursions. Those two opening tracks are just so.
They really grab you.
It's a staple for that kind of style, and I think that's what kind of drew me in a little bit. And then finding the other albums, and Q-Tip in general is just a great producer.
Right.
He had, I'll save my stuff for when I talk, but he's a cut above the rest. Fife and everybody in that group is just great. So Low End Theory was my introduction to him, but I kind of wish in high school I would have kind of got into him a little bit more.
Right.
But, just a different mindset.
But I mean, even still, you meant like the hearing them even that young, was, I guess you were probably kind of right around the age that I was when I started getting into them, because I was like 19, 20 years old when I got into them.
Yep, pretty much.
But man, yeah, like having that opportunity to get into them like in high school, I would have been like, that would have been so sick.
That would have been so cool.
When I first started smoking and shit, it was like, fuck this.
And they were like really like, they kind of bridged the gap too from being like underground to when they actually started getting success with like Low End and Midnight Marauders. Like they were really in pop culture and like in the mainstream.
They're now in, you said it, I went and rewatched the end of the episode from the last time we were together, and you mentioned it. You were like, you said it specifically about Low End, but their whole catalog in general, at least the 3 albums we're talking about, had such an influence on modern day rap, and
each one too.
Each
that we're talking
every
about
single
today,
one.
Each one.
Yeah. Had this incredible influence, and it was started by 2 dudes that were just childhood friends in fucking Queens, New York, which is unreal. And nowadays you and I like some of the more modern day stuff, like Isaiah Rashad and stuff, which is very reminiscent of this Tribe era. But then you get like the Drakes and the Futures and everything, so that's like what is mainstream rap now. But there's this whole sub layer to that is still abstract rap, which is what this was considered back in the day.
Abstract, original.
Well, I mean, they all have ties to Tribe, like not only in hip hop, but we talk about like just in R&B, in soul music, like it all kind of get their inspiration from Tribe,
right?
From their albums, a lot from Low End Theory, a lot from even their newer stuff. So yeah, it's definitely like of honor to like talk about them, and like at the same time they've talked about so much because they are probably one of the best, if not the best, like hip hop group like ever.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So
like it's no question. So
no, not at all. Like we talked about last time, it's like them and Wu-Tang were the biggest OG rap groups. But to kind of introduce Tribe, we kind of just shared our thoughts on what they kind of mean to the 3 of us as individuals and as a podcast. Tribe Called Quest formed in 1985. It was originally Q-Tip and Ali Shaheed Muhammad doing beats, and Q-Tip was just battle rapping, but Q-Tip and Phife Dawg grew up as like childhood friends in Queens, and so he kind of got he was trying to get Phife into the group to do something, and when Jarobi White joined the group, that's when Phife was like, all right, fuck it, I'll join. It was kind of the Q-Tip show for a little bit, which makes sense because him and Ali Shaheed Muhammad were, the 2 to kind of start shit off. But they kind of slowly started to get everybody involved, and Jarobi White had a small part in comparison to the other 2 MCs with Phife Dawg and Q-Tip, but as a whole, they created some of, as we just kind of mentioned, some of the biggest rap albums of all time, and easily some of the most influential MCs on rap music and music as a whole, honestly.
Yeah.
You know,
100%. Yeah.
you know, they ended up doing stuff with Fugees. They won a Brit Award for international group because they had such just a widespread influence upon the game.
Dang. There's still like, I mean, I still see music that they still make. Like I was just listening to actually, funny enough, I was like really into like Robert Glasper and his Black Radio.
Okay.
It just came out last year. And there's a song on there with Q-Tip that he features on, and it's really good. Like I was just bumping that like all week.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy that, like you mentioned, like they have, even till this day, a lot of people still talk and listen to Tribe.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
Yep.
So
one of the easiest old school rap groups to get your friends into.
Yeah.
It takes like a minimum of 3 songs to make somebody fall in love with Tribe Called Quest. Like
It is that easy.
it literally is. I did that with my roommate Gavin a while back because he had heard some stuff and I was like, nah man, like you want to hear like some deep cuts, and so I played like Check the Rhyme and like Bugging Out, and he was like, oh holy shit, and like so that, and it just started. It goes from there. You give them the keys to the safe, and then they open it up, and it's like, oh my god, there's all this good stuff.
everything else, yeah.
Outside of the 3 albums we're talking about, which are People's Instinctive
Travels and
the Paths of Rhythm, and then Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders, they did release 3 other albums afterward with Beats, Rhymes, and Life, and The Love Movement, and then We've Got It From Here, Thank You For Your Service, which was released in 2016, 8 months after Phife Dawg unfortunately passed away. And it was their that was their second album to debut at the top of the Billboard charts.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it has some good stuff on it. Brings back Busta Rhymes on a track, and he kills. But out on those 3 albums, I just want to touch on them real quick. Do you guys have any things you want to appreciate about those 3 before we dive into these 3?
Yeah, I was almost gonna bring up We Got It From Here, just because that was the first album that I was like alive for.
Yeah.
Actually, like, hear it debuting and stuff. And yeah, that album I really liked too. It got me, interested more in Tribe. Because at the time I was listening to it, but it wasn't a whole lot. And then yeah, when that happened, like I just got into it a lot more, dove back into their older stuff.
Yeah.
The other ones, the Beats,
Rhymes, and Life.
Beats, Rhymes, yeah, that one's good too. I feel like every Tribe album, they have like a staple, like 3 or 4 singles that are like super.
There's
good
at least
album.
something notable about them, and yeah, I have some things I'm saving. But what about you for those 3?
I love their early catalog and I love their later catalog, but like Jacob was saying, We Got It From Here, I felt like they just came back with a relevant presence and like took everything that they've heard going on the last 20 years or whatever and like, did their spin on it.
Yeah.
It had the lo-fi feel, it had the Tribe feel, it had everything in there.
Yeah.
The first 2 tracks, it reminded me of Low End Theory because of how it starts out. It's just so like, fuck yeah, they still got it,
Yeah.
And the fact that they managed to get enough of Phife Dawg on it before he passed away was, they did it like it was a perfect amount. So like that song, it's just that song with Busta Rhymes on it, it's like that's probably my favorite cut off of that. But off of Beats, Rhymes, and Life, this is honestly in my top 3 A Tribe Called Quest tracks is The Hop off of that. And it's one of my favorite Phife Dawg lyrics of all time because he's my favorite out of all of them is Phife. He has a line where he says, "Now that I got that out my system, let me stab up the track as if my name was O.J. Simpson." And that album came out in fucking 1996. It was like, bro, you can't do that. Dude, the first time I heard that, I lost my shit. So that's one. And then The Love Movement, Find a Way off of that. Just 5. It's
good.
and it's Fife's intro on that too. You know, speaking of which, got a leash and a wish just to rock you, miss. Like it's just they managed to keep the consistency of at least having one hook or one song that would just catch your ear and make it fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
But enough about shit we're not going to spend much time talking about. Why don't we kick this bad boy off, and we'll have Jacob do that for us. So how we doing this, buddy?
Yeah, so we're bringing up first, we're going to go in sequence, but their debut album, People's Instinctive Travels and Paths Rhythm. So this came out in 89? 90.
Yeah.
Came out in 90. Yeah, it's really, I guess you could kind of say it's Q-Tip's like solo album. It is a lot of Q-Tip.
No,
Five Top is like four.
Yeah.
He's on like 4 or 5 songs, but it's like mainly Q-Tip.
Yeah,
it's like mainly Q-Tip rapping. He's producing a lot of it. It's pretty cool. We didn't bring up also the native tongues.
Yeah,
native tongues.
I got some stuff in here about the native tongues.
Yeah, they got. It's like a.
It's basically Jungle Brothers, De La Soul, and Tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a collective.
What a
Hell
right?
of a collective.
It's like an all-star team right there.
It is.
How do you, to be around and be in that, just to listen to what those guys are doing at that time and place. What a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nutty that like they help each other a lot so much the whole time that they were doing it, and even on this they have the album cover. Like first off, it's pretty neat. All these buildings, and they kind of have like tags on them. I just noticed. They have like De La Soul. There's Queen Latifah on one of them.
Yeah.
All this other like names of the native tongues, but yeah, this album. A lot of good stuff on it. Probably their biggest song, Can I Kick It?
Yeah.
Which, we've all heard of.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard of, I think, probably.
It's in the new it's in the new Tony Hawk remake they did a couple years back.
Nice.
And you can literally in that game you can select what songs get played while you're skating. My roommate literally just had Can I Kick It? He's like, this is the only song that's allowed to play while I'm skating. So he's just sitting there carving up malls, and that's just what's playing for hours. It's fucking hilarious.
That's awesome. Oh yeah.
But yeah, to have such a heavy hitting first album as far as like hits go and everything, and have Can I Kick It on that, and to this day, after all of the albums we just kind of drive by mentioned coming out, that's still a staple in the genre.
It is.
It's damn impressive.
Yeah. And then talk about also, because they always bring it up, and it's always been a thing that like motivates them, like Zulu Nation. Like it's kind of that movement that they have for like hip hop, of just being like positive, and like happy, and you know, being open to anyone of any like race, ethnicity. Yeah. So their message was always super positive. It was always like happy hip hop, like good hip hop.
And in that vein, it makes sense that they, were in a collective with De La Soul, because that was kind of their shtick too, was, kind of the positivity spin on everything. And it's like, funny that you mentioned why you didn't like Tribe when you first heard them, because you were into that kind of more aggressive side of hip hop.
It was just a gangster rap, you got All Eyes on Me, and
I mean, you were a victim of circumstance. You were living in the time of some of the best hip hop of all time.
Up in California, loving my little Isuzu Impulse.
In
front of Marist High School, waiting for my girlfriend to get out. Having all the pastors being like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. Just blaring it.
My God. Yes.
But that's totally true though, because if you look at like the timeline, like you have groups like NWA and like this early 90s hip hop that it's like very gangster rap, and then the East Coast just makes this movement of just like like feel good hip hop, like hip hop that you can like listen to with like your family at a cookout, like something for everyone kind of. So they really brought that and brought the message that like,
or even that East Coast style out, bringing it back out more or less.
Yeah. And kind of being like, we're known for Biggie and stuff like that, but you're missing what else is going on, on in the same part of New York. Biggie was also from Queens.
Yep.
And so it's like
you got like Nas and Mobb Deep, and then you got Tribe, and it's like they're just going
got Beastie Boys a little bit out there, you know.
Yeah, it's just a complete separation. It really is, and I feel like that alone is probably why we keep jumping back into these albums from that era and that area, is because it's like, hey, New York, like area wise, it's not that big, but there was so much different. There was so many different kinds of rap music coming out. You know?
Yeah.
And it's really impressive to kind of take a look at. As far as peoples go, there's so, you know, it is kind of, and it's kind of why I said it was the Q-Tip show for an album, because there wasn't a lot of Fife on it, but goddamn, when he came in, he killed it. I just, as a little side story, I used to have a bong, and it was a little red, like, you know, one of the beaker looking types, and it had red lines at the top and at the base that looked very much like the Low End Theory cover, and so I named it Fife Dog, because that was that's my favorite member of Tribe. And every time I would bring it over for the first time and have someone smoke out of it for the first time, I had a ritual, and I would play his verse off of Can I Kick It? And be like, you gotta listen to this, man. I was the most unbearable person of all time.
You can't smoke yet.
No.
Hold it.
Oh, no, I had the timestamp memorized, so I'd just be like, yeah,
Oh my
all right,
God.
now you're good. Like, and
That's awesome.
so I got a lot of people, you know, kind of into it that way. And, man, just, it's like I said, man, I just can't get over how impressive that is. You know, because I hadn't listened to this album in particular in a good enough amount of time to where I was like, damn, I forgot that like all of this was on there, like Bonita Applebum. It's
El Segundo, like
El Segundo, man.
That video, that music video is a staple for me.
Yeah.
You know? You gotta just sing about
A
it.
lot of their music videos are super cool.
Right.
Yeah, the bugging out one.
Yeah,
The bugging
the
out
big
one.
eyes.
I sent you
Bug
that
eyes?
one earlier.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was good. That was
A
good.
lot of them, yeah, and like a lot of their songs too, like Lick a Lucian, also one of my favorite Tribe songs.
Yeah.
They just have like such good, like, I don't know, chemistry that they had, and for being like so early in their career too, like they're still in high school at this point.
Yeah.
Like even because I read online that they even went to school with Jungle Brothers.
Yeah.
So that's pretty nutty, and they were in the same, like sharing the same studio, like the same, you know, building where everyone was kind of making their own music.
Yeah.
So they'd all kind of
At that same time, Queen Latifah, Prince Paul, and somebody called Stetsasonic were in the same studio recording together.
Yeah.
But like you said, this is a Q-Tip production. Like before this album, he learned his chops by producing on the De La Soul debut,
Yeah.
and also the Jungle Brothers debut.
Damn.
So he was very much like ready to go, and like this is all his like pause tapes and home sampling and just having his own thing on it.
Yeah.
He's to be that creative at that age is just
Unreal.
Thank God he did it. Thank God somebody signed him, and thank God we
Yeah.
got to hear it all. You know,
Right.
much of the techniques are straight from his like home sampling, so it's just him doing his thing.
Damn.
And he does a damn good job of
Yeah,
it.
right.
Like he
does.
chops up that Lou Reed sample on Can I Kick It?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, dude.
Yeah. It's we were talking before you got here. I was like, that's the hardest use of that Lou Reed sample.
Yeah,
Because it's been sampled so many times at this point. And I feel like they were like the first big thing to take that bass line. And it's like, dude, like, it's so dumb, you know? And then that constant scratch over it, just like with Doomsday off of Doomsday, just having a constant scratch over a beat is unreal. God damn, dude. They're in, you know, the song Rhythm, The Art of Moving Butts, like that song
That's
goes
a good
in.
song.
It is.
Yeah.
I kept coming back to that one and Youthful Expression this week. I was like, God damn.
My boss didn't like me playing a lot of rap in the dispensary when I worked there, so I'd
That's
always
the
try to
dumbest
play
thing of all time.
Well, I'd always try to play positive hip hop. So Tribe was in there, De La Soul, and I would always start off with this album, but the opening track,
Yeah.
you got that baby crying, and when people are shopping, they're like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah.
So I always had to like kind of skip that song anytime I
Freaking
played
out.
it.
They're like high as hell. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Did I leave my kid in the car again?
the ham. I like the Ham and Eggs track too. I listen to
High
that
in
a lot.
cholesterol.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, just it's like little witty like rhymes that he's doing.
So he's closed in by vegetarians and shit.
Is that the Bo Knows This? Bo Knows That? Is that the same song? I don't know.
No.
No.
No. That's Scenario.
This is there.
Also
a big
also a great one.
These artist specific episodes are so hard to keep a formula for because it's like it literally just evolve into this where we just keep referencing everything. That might be a note to take for next time.
Yeah.
But
it's cool that they did when they did, because like it's on Spotify, the 25th anniversary. They have like remixes with CeeLo, and then Bonita Applebum, Pharrell,
and then isn't there a J. Cole one on there too?
The Can I Kick It? Yeah,
J. Cole remix.
Yeah, it's like, damn, it's pretty nutty.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean that goes to show like just the influence that it had, like that it was like influencing Pharrell, like one of the bigger producers like of the 2010s. It also, like motivated Fugees, like for their movement also. A lot of East Coast rappers, like just music in general. Like they had just right from the get-go, like just instantly just launched everybody else, like, and got everybody else thinking, the same thing that they were doing, which is like upbeat, positive, vibes and everything. So
yeah, it is a hell of a debut. We've said that ad nauseum about multiple albums, but as far as for such an influential group to have, sometimes with that kind of thing, with an influential group, no matter what the genre is, it takes a couple albums before it's like, oh, automatically, their influence is noticeable. And with Tribe, it's like, normally it would be like Low End Theory. That's the album that's where you can tell. But People's Instinctive, you go back to it, and like I said, two of their biggest songs through their whole catalog are on this, still to this day. And so they really immediately had that overreaching influence and popularity,
right away.
Yeah, right away. Like, and just goddamn, it's so
I think they came out at the perfect time in that industry and that genre. Like 1990 is just the perfect time to come out with this kind of music.
Yeah, absolutely. There was so, the first 3 years of the 90s we've kind of talked about a lot. There was a lot of different. I think it was you that brought it up when we covered Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Chili Peppers. You said this was like the perfect time to do something new because people were so exhausted with
just hair metal and just
hair metal and like dad stadium rock,
right?
And then the only hip hop at the time was like fucking Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash to kind of roll out to put a cap on the 80s, and so that's why you see this. People were like, "Oh, those guys did that." Like,
right?
We can do that too, but we can make it more appealing to the masses. And it, like, the '90s rap is like what all of this was built off of, right? Like everything that we've got now.
So many different, you got NWA, Straight Outta Compton. You got this. You got so many different ideas.
Ready to Die, All Eyes on Me, like you said,
coming out. Like people are just expressive, and I don't feel like we see that much anymore.
No.
Where it has that kind of an impact, at least.
Right.
Like, people are still doing their thing and being artists, but like to have an impact like this album did, or Low End Theory, or Midnight Marauders, like those are all staples that are regarded as like premium cuts. Like for anybody that's into this genre, these are the albums that you need to listen to and remember, because it set the bar for everything else. Yeah.
And to have 3 albums that can be considered like in the top 10 most influential albums of all time is pretty unreal. Right? That's pretty.
Like, how do you outdo your previous album? And a lot of bands fall and fail at that.
It's the reason why that term, the sophomore slump, is a thing, is because someone will have a killer debut and then the next album just eats shit. Yeah.
No, they probably have like one of the stronger catalogs in hip hop in general. Like,
definitely. As far as
not only like back-to-back albums, but like also the span of time, like 1990 to their like most recent one that they did, like it's a long time, and people still listened, right? So that kind of goes to show like just the impact that they had. But yeah, man, this album, like, I mean, I feel like we could have like a 3-hour episode
about
like
4 hours.
Yeah. We just keep going.
Break down each song, hell yeah.
The lyrics. Do you guys want to do top 3 on this?
Yeah, kick us off.
Okay, so top 3. I'm gonna go. I left my wallet in El Segundo. I was actually just like listening to this because I went to Costco before this, and I was listening to that song, and that song kind of, you know, it's like a storytelling of like how
total storytelling.
Yeah,
song.
it's like he's like,
So good.
you know, they're out eating. He's like, oh, can you pay for this? And then he's like, gets sidetracked looking at a cute girl, and then he leaves his wallet, and then it just evolves into a song about this. It's fucking nuts, the storytelling. So that's in my top 3. So I'm gonna go Can I Kick It?
Yeah.
And then Luck of Lucian. Just that, like, you hear the horns in the intro, and then it just goes right into the beat, and then like, brother, like, so good. And then honorable mention, Push It Along.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. For me, honorable mention, Youthful Expression and Rhythm, parentheses, The Art of Moving Butts. That title kills me. And it's kind of a good one to kind of get toward the end of the album. It's like part of that last 4 run. And then number 3 for me, Bonita Applebum. Goddamn. I do also, before we continue, I have a Tribe Called Quest Vans because they did
I thought you were gonna bring it.
I couldn't find
you were
them.
wearing them.
I couldn't find them, dude. I'm so pissed about
I
it.
don't have them. I
But-
didn't steal them.
I was about to say, Jacob, you're the only. I was like, I had eyes on Matt. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
those are really cool though.
But
Don't go in my bedroom ever.
yeah, so Vans and A Tribe Called Quest did a collab, and the high top version has 38, 24, 37 written in the top in the inside of the shoe. And it's also been my girlfriend's name in my phone for like 4 years. So Bonita Applebum, number 3. Number 2, Luck of Lucian. Shout out Jacob. We both had that. And then number 1, Can I Kick It? Because it is also in my
That's
top
the
3
one.
favorite Tribe songs. Yeah.
This one. Honorable mention for me was Rhythm, Devoted to the Art of Moving. Number 3, Luck of Lucian. I think we all like that one.
Yeah.
Number 2, I Left My Wallet in El Segundo. And then I like After Hours. It was cool.
Nice.
That's my number 1.
It was cool.
I love that. Love the sampling they use from that. And it's just a great song.
Hell yeah.
It's very casual and like relaxing almost. So
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Well, that was People's Instinctive Travels in the Paths of Rhythm by A Tribe Called Quest, their first album released in 1990, which was Jacob's pick for this week. We'll be right back to talk about some Low End Theory. We got
that's a
to.
good point.
Well, it's time to move on in our quest to cover A Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah. Just over exaggerate my corny ass joke.
I get
You
it now.
bitch.
I get it now.
Matt's feeling feisty. I like it. God damn it. We're going to go ahead and loosely cover Low End Theory. It'll probably just evolve into more conversation about them as a whole. But Low End Theory, released in 1991. We've kind of talked about this year more than once on this podcast. Mm-hmm. We're going to end up talking about it more. This was a hell of a year for music in general. This is one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. As we've mentioned, this one gets referenced a lot in modern day rap and music as a whole as well. But what are your guys' kind of takeaways from this? How did this one treat you?
I think, like you said, like with the first album we talked about being Q-Tip's kind of like breakthrough. This is Fife's breakthrough.
Yeah.
Like I feel this is a lot of Fife Dog rapping over Q-Tip's production, with Q-Tip kind of coming back on the chorus and doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Mainly produced by Q-Tip again because he's just doing his thing. And there's so many cool jazz and drum samples from just so many different bands, and it kind of brought me into other bands that I've like, oh, I've heard that sample before. That's really cool that they use that. And Fife has so many killer rhymes on this album. It's just like it's a staple for him. It's like it's just a breakthrough album, 100%. We hear Busta Rhymes for the first time, or for his voice is very well known for this album. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to get that introduction and kind of set him off for his solo career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
Doing his
one
debut
feature
album.
spurred his whole solo career,
Uh-huh.
which is very, very prolific and very fun to listen to.
And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the albums that we talk about get inducted into that national, what is it, the Library of Congress, the recording registry, and this is one of those albums that got into that category. So just a
So
great,
sick.
great
Yes.
sophomore album. No more sophomore jinx. I mean, they just come out strong, and the first 2 tracks with excursions and bugging out, like nothing else to be said about that.
Yeah. Scenario, dude, I think it's probably one of the best posse cuts, like,
Oh, God.
ever. Like, just having the leaders of the new school with Busta Rhymes, and then you got Tribe also. Like, you can't beat that.
Have y'all
Can't beat
seen the clip of them doing it live on Arsenio Hall?
I don't think so.
Seen that.
All right, before we all depart today, I'm
gotta
gonna
watch
pull it
it.
up, dude. It's fucking tight. They
Yeah.
got the whole. They've got leaders in the new school. They have fucking everybody. And Q-Tip during his verse is like running up into the crowd. One of the dudes from leaders in the new school is like running up into the back of the like, dude. They're just going bananas,
That's awesome.
dude. It's so tight.
One of my favorite lyrics on that song was from Phife Dawg. He says, "Brothers front, they say the tribe can't flow, but we've been known to do the impossible like Broadway Joe."
Yeah.
Cool New York Jets, little hint.
Yeah, little
So-
Joe Namath.
Sleep if you want. NyQuil will help you get your Z's droop. But here's the real scoop. I'm all and then some, short, dark, and handsome. Bust a nut inside your eye to show you where I come from.
Dude. No, it's one of the hardest lyrics of all
It
time.
is.
It is.
Bust a nut inside your eye.
And
to
it's
show you where
so
I
freely.
come
It's
from.
like, it's almost like comical. You're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's that good.
Crazy, man. That like fusion that they had, and yeah, Busta Rhymes. He does his thing on there, and he's like 19, 18.
Yeah.
Is he that
Crazy.
He is
Young.
He is a child.
They're all
They're all
kids.
pretty young at that
Yeah,
point.
they're all
early
pretty
20s or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I think Busta was even like younger than that. Younger than he was like a couple years younger than the other guys.
And this is the album that Jerobi left.
Yeah.
He left
Yep.
for culinary school to go do that thing.
Yeah,
And some
yeah.
of the verses that he did were cut from the final album. So I wonder
Mm.
what he had to say.
Me too.
Right.
But you kind of brought up the intro 2 tracks of this, Excursions and Bugging Out, and you hear that stand up bass for Excursions, that do 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 do, and bro, you just know you're in for it. And there's like no drum track yet, and Q-Tip comes in and starts spitting, and then that drums kick in, and it's like, and then you get into Bugging Out, which is, I think, it's a popular song of theirs, but I think it kind of gets overlooked, even with it being so popular, because of like how, just like there's a lot of good lyrical stuff going on, like microphone check 1 2. What is this? The 5-foot assassin with the roughneck business. I float like gravity. Never had a cavity. Like, just to start off a song like that. It's like, bro, what are you doing?
Crosby was rapping on the way to basketball day. I drink a lot of soda, so they call me Dr. Pepper. Because he heard that lyric. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Bro, there is, just in those first 2 songs, you literally get, like, kind of like you were saying, this was Fife's breakthrough, which it is known for being Phife Dawg's breakthrough.
Yeah.
And you get, a killer Q-Tip track with Excursions, and then you get one of the strongest Phife performances that's in their catalog.
Yeah.
It's
probably one of my favorite Phife Dawg songs, where it's just him, Butter.
Yeah,
I love that song. It's just him, on
dude.
it.
It's just him, dude.
It's just
I'm
him.
smooth like butter.
I thought I was alone. I was like,
So
dude,
good.
Butter might actually be like one of my
it's so good.
favorite Tribe tracks.
I really like verses from the Abstract.
Yes.
That Heat Wave sample, dude. Star of a Story. Like, that's just looped the whole time throughout that whole track. It's crazy, like, just the sampling that Q-Tip was doing. And he was pulling a lot of jazz, like mainly a lot of jazz and a lot of soul that he was like mixing in and just putting like a drum beat over it.
Kind of just skewed. He completely went away from the first album's kind of,
Yeah.
You had a lot of classic, like the 70s, 60s rock with like that Lou Reed sample on the first album, and then it's like all obscure ass jazz stuff that wasn't very popular.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude, and I think this is why a lot of people still put him as like being a really, really good producer. Because just the work that he did on these 3 albums, like it speaks for itself. Like
Very
just finding these like small samples, like just like this 3 or 4 second cut from a track, and just looping it, and then just putting a drum beat over it, and then you get an amazing album from it. So.
Then I like the limited use of the profanity too. I feel like they did that on most of their albums.
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah, like they like will cut out when they're about to say like fuck or something. They'll just like be like, kind of like you do it when kids are around, kind of thing. And I liked that too. And then when they do it, it's like tasteful. I kind of talk like a sailor, but I still appreciate that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, especially with hip hop, because everybody does that, and like to set yourself apart and be able to do the same thing and have more of like okay, we're just having a conversation. Yeah, you ain't mad at me, and you're not,
And like I've played A Tribe Called Quest for my mom, like she doesn't listen to a lot of that. Like she hadn't really listened to them, and there was like one day I was like up at their house, like 4 or 5 years ago. And she was like, what are you doing? Like, what have you been listening to? And I was like, I've been listening to A Tribe Called Quest. And I put on Check the Rhyme. And she was like, I actually really like this. And I was like, yeah, because this is stuff I can play for my, like straight-laced white mom. She's not that straight-laced if you actually talk to her outside of work. She's a fucking savage. But still, it kind of goes with that, it's you said it. You can play it in front of your family. You can do it like that.
Super accessible.
And when they do swear, they're either poking fun at people who use that kind of language, or they're like using it to make a point. It's it's like the most defensible swearing of all time in music, And it was a good, again, just to tie it into what we've said multiple times, the gangster rap and everything that was popular at the time was overusing that kind of language, and just talking about just nasty stuff to sound like an old white about it. They're just talking about booty shaking and killing people. And then
that's a good point. Yeah.
And then Tribe Called Quest comes out, and it's like, no, we're just talking about having. It's like, it's hard to, unless you like pull up the lyrics and like kind of see what they're saying. It's like I don't know what they're rapping about, what the song's about, but my early interpretation of Tribe was like they're just in this to have fun,
Yeah, they're very much. It's not like, especially with their lyrics, what they like rhyme about and stuff. Like it's not. A lot of it is like happy and stuff, but it's not like very too deep,
right? In
a sense, like they're not taking themselves too seriously.
No,
they're like having fun with it a lot of the time, and they're just making songs, that is accessible to everyone else.
So this album has like a little to do, kind of like songwriting with like relationships song. Yeah, it's talking about that, and then like consumerism and the general fashion. I feel like a lot of those, it touches on a lot of those things.
It was, the lyrical content was a little bit deeper, and kind of even went more. I feel like because Fife was on it more, it had a little bit more diversity than what was on the first album. They kind of did still talk about like Zulu Nation and everything like that, and Afrocentrism, and it was I lost what I was gonna say.
Well,
I was tying 2 albums together. I was about to start going into yours.
Track, the infamous date rape song like that, the classic, the intro of that song is really like catchy.
Yeah.
But the message behind that song is something else. Yeah. So I don't know, it's just a creative thing to do with a song.
It is.
You have it hooky, but also be a very serious topic. Yeah. And you're not sure, like, what are they talking about? And once you break down the lyrics, you understand what they're speaking about. It happened.
Because one head ain't better than two, or whatever that line is that he says. And that is, you're exactly right, Matt. That's super fucking creative to do with a song in a heavy topic like that. Yeah, it's like people talk about "Me and My Girlfriend" by Tupac. Not a lot of people know that song's not in fact about a woman. It's about Tupac talking about his gun. That's what he's rapping about. And so they kind of did their own thing with a much more deep topic. It's unreal.
Yeah, that song I always kind of, when I was listening to this album, I kind of breezed past that and Sky Pager. I would always kind of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna skip this song. But listening to it, I mean, like, it's really good too, and the message behind it,
I would agree with you. I would probably skip those two.
Yeah.
I was always skipping those. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
I mean, even though we're here to praise Tribe,
We are, yeah.
every
we all agree on
artist,
that. Yeah, right.
every artist has songs that low key suck. You know,
maybe not suck, but it's like, there's
yeah,
better ones.
there's
Yeah.
better, and you know, to have this album is dense enough with shit that is just out of this world that you know, having 2 songs that go off by the wayside doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then jazz. We got the jazz.
Dude, don't even
Probably
go
one of
there.
my
Don't
favorite.
even go there.
Dude.
It's just like
Dude,
the sampling on that song, the lyrics. I mean, just the flow of the whole thing.
the aim is to succeed and achieve at 21.
Right.
Dude. The jazz and the fact that the music video for that on YouTube is
Tied in with
jazz into bugging out. Dude. Oh man.
Yeah.
And that is really, I mean, it's so cliche, but they knew what they were doing naming that song Jazz, because it's the jazziest samples on the whole album.
That trumpet sample is just so good.
Yeah. Competition to 5 foot come sideways.
And they both have great verses, both of them.
Yeah.
Like, they both flow so well.
Yeah. And
This album, you could tell they're way more in sync with each other and rapping.
well, they brought back the old classic rap trope of call and response with Check the Rhyme. Do you remember when we were on your cousin's block, those fly routines? Damn, I can't remember. I will play the message and you will play the sendo. You know, you on point 5 all the time tip. You know, that call and response is so nasty on Check the Rhyme, and that was like like Grandmaster Flash shit. Like no one, like it happened once and no one did it again, but it was just that classic trope, and they revisited it and made it just made it so sick.
That's a good point, because they do that a lot in any of this album, and then even in Midnight Marauders, you see that they bounce back from each other, and they like just keep that same energy throughout the whole track. And you could tell that Phife Dawg, he's really at this point, he's like his own rapper. Like he, you know, he's a lot more expressive. His rapping is a lot better. So yeah, man. And with Q-Tip's production, I feel like a lot of people don't bring up as much Ali.
They don't, he doesn't get enough credit.
He doesn't get enough. Like he like DJs and he like does the record scratch, and I'm pretty sure he has production also credits all over it. But
and I'll go to bat for Mr. Muhammad because production is one thing. Being able to make a beat is one thing. I can't fucking do it, but I can mix and manipulate a track like a motherfucker. So like that was probably what happened. Was Q-Tip would make the beat and everything, and then he would probably just hand the Lucy file off to Ali, and he would go ahead and take it and do the scratching and shit over it. So, and that is there is talent that goes into that. It took me fucking 4 years to figure out how to do that kind of stuff like easily, like with success.
I think Tribe is like the perfect example of like a school project. You know where I'm going with, like a school project where like every member just does their part.
Yeah, just does their part.
Like,
and some people do more than others, but they still get the same
That's
grade.
a good point. I can see
this
that.
one, there isn't anyone that's lacking. Like they're all very much putting their part. So
yeah.
Because alone, it wouldn't have
That
stood
was
out.
such a great
But like alone, it wouldn't have stood out as much if they just did their solo stuff and they had never
yeah.
got together.
No.
Like them to come together as a group and do their thing and blow up like that was the perfect combination for sure.
In all honesty, outside of Q-Tip, because he was such an insane producer and went off to do solo production work.
Yeah.
I mean, mind you, would he have done that if he didn't make a name for himself with A Tribe Called Quest? We'll never know, because he did end up doing that. Outside of that, I don't think anybody out of this group would have found success solo-wise.
I agree.
I think, and that's not to say that they're not talented, but it's like, it's, you know, some people work better on projects as a group, some people work better solo, and you know, like we're here, and to put a cap on that perfectly, most of these guys did solo projects, and we're here talking about A Tribe Called Quest. We're not here talking about their fucking solo projects. So yeah.
I think they definitely could have been successful, but not to the extent that they are as a
God,
group.
no.
As
Sure
a
not.
group, like it's, you know, you could pick them all apart and say, you know, oh, Five Dog, he was a great MC, so was Q-Tip, and his production also. But when they're together, like it's one unit.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing. So.
And well, you know, it's like the thing that we've talked about time and time again is when a producer knows what they're doing and who they're producing for.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about that with Alchemist and the litany of artists that he does solo projects for.
Sorry. We're not talking about
Wrong
the
out.
We're not
wrong
talking about the
band,
Far Side.
dude.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
Goddamn alarm. Told you I got ringtones for everybody.
That was.
You want a ringtone? I got one for you.
The fact that one went off and it wasn't Tribe is the funniest shit.
I wish it would have been. That would have been great.
That's going on. That's going on the Instagram. But so goddamn, I forgot. What
I'm sorry. I'm
no,
sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Son of a
It's
bitch.
funny. No, it's all good. Fuck.
This album
This album
is my favorite Tribe album. I'll be honest. I
Whoa.
think for me,
really.
yeah.
I'm not.
Okay.
I feel like it's either this or Midnight Marauders.
Right.
Like, hands down.
I thought Jacob. Honestly, I thought you were kind of sad that you got People's Instinctive.
No.
No.
Okay.
I was like, I feel bad. I feel bad because like Midnight and Low End Theory are like the most talked about ones. And I was like, shit.
I definitely listen to a lot more Midnight.
Same.
But I've listened to their whole catalog front to back.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm very familiar with even their first album.
Yeah.
And all their albums. So
Right.
it's like.
No, I was just like,
Tribe is
damn.
Tribe.
Because I think you and I were like hyping up on like, there was some conversation we had when I was like, shit. But yeah, I listened to this like a shit ton like after the fact, like, because you know you go through phases where you're like, oh, I haven't done like a hard month of listening to Tribe Called Quest and like stuff like that. And so I kept revisiting this album already, and also I ordered it online and it took legit 6 months to get
Forever,
here.
yeah, I
and I
remember
was
that.
so mad. And so when we were like, all right, we're doing Tribe Day, that's why I immediately was like, can I do Low End Theory? Because I've been waiting for this, because I waited for this.
Yeah.
I was patient and didn't refund my purchase.
Yeah. Yeah, because like a couple weeks before you got it, like it was already in stores and like
Yeah.
had you gotten it like
Yeah,
several
like I
times.
didn't even have a shipment notification email, and then Matt was like, "Pick this up at House of Records today,"
Oh, that's
and I
right,
almost
that's
drove over here and was like, "What the fuck?" I was
Give me
like-
my album.
Yeah.
And then literally that happened. Matt found it in stores. I went to the record store regularly to see if I could get it, and then just get my money back. Couldn't do it, and then a month after that, it was like, "Hey, it's out for out for shipping." I was like, "Jesus Christ!" Don't order albums off Guitar Center.
Yeah,
Don't fucking
that
do
was
it.
your first mess up.
It said it was in stock. And then I got the confirmation email and a back-ordered email immediately.
Oh my
I was like, you
no.
pricks.
You're like, we got your order, but it's not coming anytime
Yeah.
soon.
And then 4 months later, I went to Guitar Center to get stuff for my bass, and I was like, oh, this place sucks. I'm like, there's nothing fucking here.
Yeah.
Support local businesses.
Yeah.
Support local podcasts. Listen to What You
Yeah.
Spinnin'.
Listen to us.
And what You Spinnin's about to do is go into top threes about Low End Theory. So I'll go ahead and start off. Honorable mention, show business. The business. Just that, the business.
business.
And the raps on that are great. Honorable mention also, Scenario. Without that song, we wouldn't have the great solo career of Busta Rhymes. Shout out Leaders of the New School, though. Number 3, Butter. Number 2, Check the Rhyme. And, you know, honestly, number 2 and number 1 can flip-flop. Now that I'm looking at it, I do flip-flop it, and I did it earlier this morning. So, Check the Rhyme and Jazz flip-flop between 1 and 2 for me.
Wow.
Nice.
That's pretty good. For me, honorable mention would be Bugging Out.
Yep.
Number 3, Check the Rhyme. It's a staple. Number 2, Vibes and Stuff.
Yes.
I love that song. And like I said, this whole time we've been talking about this album, Jazz. We got it's my favorite track.
We got the jazz.
Got the jazz.
Honorable mention, I'm gonna go Scenario.
Yep.
You have to include that. I'm sorry. I think it got like it was in some list of like the top 200 hip hop songs or something
Makes sense.
that I saw. So with good reason. But yeah, that's my honorable mention. I'm gonna go Verses from the Abstract.
Yes.
I'm gonna go Vibes and Stuff, and then Jazz.
Nice.
Jazz has always been my favorite song off of this album.
Yes.
So.
Hell yeah.
100%.
Hell yeah. Well, this has been Low End Theory by A Tribe Called Quest, their second album. And to wrap this baby up, we'll talk about their third album, Midnight Marauders, which is Matt's pick for this week. We'll be right back to do so. Well, it's time to wrap this episode of Whatchu Spinnin up with Matt's pick for this week. And as has been perfectly portrayed throughout this episode, it's, guess what? A Tribe Called Quest. But what album is it, my guy?
We're going with their third album from 1993 called Midnight Marauders. I guess kind of regarded as their best work, combining, elements from both of the first albums with another solid production from Q-Tip. I mean, I feel like he's always behind the scenes on these albums.
Yeah.
Ali saying the album title was kind of like a Tribe Called Quest or Sound Thieves Looting Your Ears, which is kind of cool. Midnight Marauders. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool thing. And I think they kind of return back to that eclectic sampling with a lot of jazz, like 70s jazz samples and a lot of funk and soul and R&B, and Fife's relevant on this album, and it's just, it's a fun listen.
Yeah. And
it's like their third album. It's like, how do you come back and like outdo
Low End?
Like, how do you do
They
that?
keep outdoing themselves.
Exactly.
And I read something about Fife and Q in the studio after they kind of wrapped things up on this album, and Fife being like, Q, we did it again.
Really?
We did it again. Because,
man.
how do you get to that status? But they did, and this is a great album. What do you guys think?
Man, you want to talk about, we talked about the three albums that came out after this, because that run isn't as monumental as these three. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted to pay appreciation to them, is because they do have their highlights and they're good for their own reason. But as far as comparing 3 to 3, they lose 11 out of 10 times to these three albums because of the just massive hits that came off of them. Fucking the hits, the influence, everything that we've talked about with these first two also applies to this, obviously. Yeah. And that's why they're so just leaps and bounds better than the past or the three afterward. Needless to say, those other three are great. But Midnight Marauders, man, it was very much that. Like, I echo Fife's sentiment. They did it again. Starting off with, and I love that gimmick or whatever the hell you want to call it, with the Midnight Marauder program.
Yeah, like
that announcer or like hostess throughout the album is so sick. It's so awesome. And then to go from the Midnight Marauder intro into Steve Biko. Right. Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Steve Biko is probably one of the best songs on this album.
Stir it up.
Stir it up. I do. I love that song. And I had forgotten how much I loved it until, we were listening to these for the past 2 weeks. And I was like, shit, Steve Biko is a banger.
It is.
Like,
it's good.
They're so consistent. It's fucking nuts. Like how consistent they are. They still have very much like that hunger and that passion to keep making new music.
Yeah.
And this album solidifies it.
Yeah.
And I love the cover. It's probably one of my more favorite covers, just as in any album.
Yeah.
It really sets like a specific staple in time. Like all the people, like Beastie Boys, you got Del the Funky Homo Sapien, there's
Busta,
Farside, Kid Capri, like just these 90s
Africa
like
Bambaata's on there.
Yeah, a lot of these like crazy influential people in that time. They all kind of wanted to be a part of history. They're like, hey, we're making an album cover, we're having, it's
Just
we're on a
headshots.
run, we're on a crazy run. This is gonna be solidified in music history.
Yeah.
And it staples it like to a T perfectly. I was looking at it too. It came out on November 9th, which is
A week after
same date as my birthday, just like 5 years.
5 years before.
Yeah,
That's
or
right.
6 years. Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, I said days. I meant years.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, man, pretty cool.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. November 9th, it's a pretty alright day. You
That's
know
a
what
good
I'm
day.
saying?
That's a good
It's
day all
carrot.
around.
It's scary. But it's, you kind of wrapped it up perfectly, with it being a perfect kind of taking the best of both of the first two albums and making it into its own kind of cohesive hodgepodge project, I guess. This was really successful off the first one. This was really popular off the second. Let's kind of meld them together. And, I think kind of the one thing that's clear that they realize is like, hey, let's have Q-Tip and Fife do more of that call and response type of thing that they did, and really have it be not so much of like, oh, this song Q's gonna do, this one Fife's gonna do, rather than having them just trade off tracks, have them more on the same track. And I appreciated that about this. I forgot how much of Midnight Marauders I had listened to because I've been so much into low end theory lately. I turned this on, and that opening, again, their opening bass lines are fucking incredible. I heard that opening bass line to 8 Million Stories, and I was like, shit, I know damn near every word to this song.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, okay. I was like, oh yeah, this is a banger too.
Yes.
I was like, that's why we're covering it.
Like every song has just either
Right.
a bass line or a hook or just a lyric that just catches your attention every time.
Right.
And yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up, you mentioned it kind of like that. It has that like, it's not really like, I guess conductor is not a good word to put it, but like just like it has that whole theme the whole out. Like it's kind of like a tour, like someone narrating it.
Like an airplane, it's like the airplane safety presentation kind of thing.
And it comes in at the perfect times throughout the whole album.
It does,
From
It's
the start,
it's
and
scattered
then kind
all
of in
throughout.
the middle. And
It's
just
scattered everywhere, and like I feel like a lot of albums that when they do this, it comes from this.
And
Like,
it also is reminiscent of the first album, because the first album has Jerobe White doing that, we having a ball, I'm Jerobe White. Like after almost every song, there's that weird little interlude. And so they just did it with a robot voice.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, they brought that, like I said, man, they just took the best aspects of both and kind of combined them.
And I heard that Jerobe actually came back on this album. It was more of like an in-studio like mood enhancer. Like
Makes
just
sense.
Getting the guys in the groove and like making jokes and shit. I guess he was good at that, and he would get the guys to vibe together. So,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I read about that. It's kind of cool. So I don't know if he had any production or any verses, but or anything that he wrote. But he was very much in the studio, kind of helping out. And still part of the group, which is cool. So like step away and then be welcomed back to just kind of do your thing.
Yeah.
And be around all those people. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Your old homies.
Yeah.
Hey, we know that you're a great sushi chef now, but
Yeah.
you wanna,
Can we crack some jokes?
you wanna come be comedic relief for this tense album recording?
man, like so many songs on this. This is probably my favorite Tribe album.
Really?
So many songs on it. They have such bangers too. A War Tour.
That's the song. Right
Electric Relaxation. Like the fact that both of those songs are on this album, it's like,
That's how I felt about re-listening to the first one, man.
it kind of solidifies it.
Yeah.
Clap Your Hands. That has always been my favorite song on this album.
Yep.
Just like whatever that record scratch is, like in between, and then man, I don't know. Every time it just hits me on the spot.
Sucker with that that chop vocal on it. Oh man. Oh man. We Can Get Down. Another great song.
We Can Get Down.
We can get down. Oh my God. that
Another
slight,
Busta,
that
yeah.
slight, just the Busta hook. Oh my god, yeah, oh my god. I say that all the time. That is something I've been saying forever. Just
Yeah,
like
right.
anytime I'm like, oh my god,
Busta.
yeah.
Oh my god.
They're in.
And he does that throughout his solo stuff. On his first album, he does that. He's like, "Oh my god, oh my god." Yeah, he's always saying that. Yeah.
He's kind of like, some people I feel like they could be like not members, but they're like honorary members.
Yeah,
For sure.
Busta is kind of
yeah. Busta,
like that.
Definitely.
Busta's definitely the third mic.
Definitely.
Yeah,
A Tribe Called
he's
Quest.
like the fifth and like the sixth member of the group.
Yeah.
Officially.
Officially, yeah.
Mhm.
And it, to go back to 8 Million Stories, it, you were talking about Left My Wallet in El Segundo kind of being a Q-Tip story, which it very much is.
Mm-hmm.
The 8 Million Stories is Fife's version of that, which
Yeah.
I thought was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Cauville to get a milkshake. He's talking about going on a date and ironing a shirt, and he leaves the iron on it and fucking burns a hole in it, and
Yeah.
tries to go pick up his cousin and blah blah blah, and it's just his whole day is just ruined trying to get prepped for a date. And then the end of it where it's Q-Tip going, help me, help me, help me, like turns into, he goes like goblin mode on it. I love that. It's one of my it's one of my favorite songs off.
Yeah. God Lives Through, also super good song.
Amazing song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this whole album, man, especially that middle section where it's We Can Get Down, going into Electric Relaxation, and then Clap Your Hands.
Clap your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd even extend it,
And then,
fucking extend it. Oh my god is right after that.
and then
isn't
Keep It Rolling,
Yeah.
like, yeah, man, it's
Mm-hmm.
they kind of keep that same consistency too, where it's like 14 songs. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's 14 songs on this, 14 songs on that, I'm pretty sure,
Mhm.
and then 14 songs on the
I
first
think
album.
so. Yeah. And the run times are very much it's like pretty similar. It's like either just over an hour by seconds or just under it by like a minute or two. Like it's like 58 to a minute or to an hour and 1 minute.
Yeah, they all have 14 songs.
That's pretty insane. That's good on you for recognizing that. I definitely did not catch that. What's shit, man. Dude. Electric Relaxation. That's another one of their monumental hits. There's actually a pretty good remix, quote unquote, of it that Wiz Khalifa did in honor of Phife Dawg after Phife passed away, because Wiz was really influenced by A Tribe Called Quest, and what he did was he took all of Q-Tip's verses out of Electric Relaxation and kept Phife's in,
Okay.
and did his own verses to where it was basically like him and Phife trading verses.
Oh, that's cool.
And he like shouted out Phife Dawg in like a lot of the lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sick. I'll send that to you guys. The same guy that played Electric Relaxation was like, "Have you heard this version of it?" And I was like,
That's cool.
"No, I haven't fucking heard that." And he's
No,
played it. I was
wow.
like, "Damn, all right."
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like the coolest homage you could do. It's like it is kind of like a to Q-Tip, but to get the point across of trying to honor someone that passed away.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like that.
I like
That's
that.
pretty. That's pretty
Cool.
solid.
I like that.
Yeah, but
Man. I feel like every time that I hear the intro to a War Tour, like just that like weird like little like very faint, that very little faint melody, and then you hear the drums come in, like it's like instantly it's like it's a banging Tribe song. Like,
yeah.
it's also
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's also like a staple in their catalog. So.
Yeah, and Matt, you told us at work this week you brought up that track in particular. No, you brought up how a Award Tour was just like it's like a stereotypical like that's a Tribe song.
Like if you hear that, you're just like that's the Tribe feel.
Yeah, that
If you had to describe that
if you
to
could
somebody,
bottle that vibe of like in A Tribe Called Quest song, Award Tour will
That's it.
cover all of the bases. And I didn't respond to it with words because I was like, holy shit, that's like actually really fucking accurate. I was like, that's very profound. I went and listened to that track immediately and I was like, all right, yeah, I mean, god damn it, Matt.
Yeah.
That was some Einstein shit right there. I was like, that was very accurate.
it's a good cut.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
And like we said, that intro, that it just makes you want to do that motion exactly, like you're a VHS skipping, just
Yeah.
And they both have amazing verses on that song too, going back and forth between them two. Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I'll start off with top 3.
Do it.
Honorable mention, Beat Lyrics to Go.
Yeah.
Number 3, Electric Relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Award Tour, like we were just talking about. And then for me, number 1 would be Steve Biko. Stir It Up!
Stir It Up. Honorable mentions for me, God Lives Through and Sucka. And then number 3, Electric Relaxation. 2, Steve Biko. And number 1, 8 Million Stories.
Nice.
Yeah.
Common, I'm going to bring it up again, the common theme, Steve Biko.
Yep.
Such a great intro that Five Dog does on an album. Like, he sets it up perfectly, and then, it ties into Q-Tip. He does pretty much the same thing that he does. Then I'm going to go We Can Get Down, and then Clap Your Hands. I just love that jazzy sample and the record scratching.
Absolutely.
Honorable mention, God Lives Through.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, man, it's these 3 albums, man. How did they do it? Like, it's been over like 5 years, like not even like
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
They just kept that same consistency, and like, because a lot of artists, they could get worn out, and they're like, oh, we did a good 2 albums, like let's just do something different.
Yeah.
But they're like, nope, we are getting written in the books, and people will keep talking about us for decades to come. So they solidified themselves.
Right. And it's so rare and so incredibly fascinating that they managed to pump out these 3 albums in less than 5 years of time, and to have each one of them be able to go up against the other 2 one-on-one and be like, which one's better, and you're just your head will fly off your body because trying to compare, because it's like, shit, man, what's the difference between an apple and an apple? There isn't one. Like, they're all great in their own right. But I feel like we did it, boys. I feel like we did a good job of talking about Tribe and these 3 albums, and even touching on their other works. For the love of Christ, if you haven't listened to A Tribe Called Quest and you listen to this podcast, you pick one or the other, preferably this podcast. But if you want to keep doing that, go ahead and listen to A Tribe Called Quest. These 3 albums are a great place to start. It will also open up your ears to some other artists that we've covered on this podcast. If you didn't like them, i.e. De La Soul, even I would say, there's just a litany of artists that we've covered that like are really rooted in A Tribe Called Quest. I would say Fugees is another good one. But go ahead, give them a listen if you haven't. This has been Whatchu Spinnin' episode 40. Before we wrap it up quite yet, we're going to go ahead and let you know what's coming in episode 41. So before we go ahead and introduce these new picks, just want to let y'all know, after this episode, we're going to take a brief little 2-week break, give ourselves a little vacation after hitting 40 episodes. Pretty impressive monument, if you ask me. So thank you, boys. Wanted to thank y'all on camera for sticking it out with me. This has been a hell of a time. And I'm excited to marinate on these 3 albums and then come back stronger than ever for episode 41. And speaking of episode 41, let's dive in. Jacob, what are you bringing up, man?
Yeah, so I'm bringing up, it's like a compilation.
Okay.
It's a compilation of some jazz music. So it's mainly kind of...
Is it multiple artists? Or?
Yeah, it's multiple artists. It's put together by Yasuke Ogawa.
Okay.
He's like a really, like, I guess, influential Japanese jazz person. But the album in question is Japanese Jazz Spectacle Volume 1, Deep, Heavy, and Beautiful Jazz from Japan. That's from 1968 to 1984.
That's Volume 1?
Volume 1, yes.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
like a bunch of bunch of jazz cuts from Japan, like older jazz. So
Wow.
Japanese jazz?
yes.
Heck yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it does. You're good, buddy.
So yeah, I think you guys like it.
Yeah, I think so
Okay.
too. And for me, I'm gonna be anti-rap for a couple of episodes, and to start that trend off, I'm going with "They're Only Chasing Safety" by Under Oath. I
Damn.
believe it was released in 2000. Hold on, let me find out real quick. I was literally listening to it earlier today. It's like 2006 or something.
Yeah.
2004. They're Only Chasing Safety by Under Oath, released in 2004. I don't know what number of album it was from them, but some post-hardcore kind of metal music for y'all. I'm super stoked to bring that up.
I'm anxious to hear that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. What do you got, man?
I'm going back to 1992. I'm going to start off with the sophomore album or probably actually it's the third album from Faith No More called Angel Dust. I don't own this album, but we'll get a cover shot on there.
Faith No More is a great band. I don't know if I know any songs off of that album off the top of my head, but I'm stoked. Faith No More kicks ass.
Yeah.
But anyways, this has been Whatchu Spinnin', episode 40, the A Tribe Called Quest special edition. Want to thank y'all for joining us and hanging in with us. That's Jacob, that's Matt, and I'm Dorian. Feel free to give us a follow on Instagram.
Lollipop.
Lollipop.
Yeah. Feel free to give us a follow on Instagram. We're trying to get a TikTok built. That might be coming. Who the fuck knows? But yeah, follow us on Instagram. Like and subscribe to the channel. Be a friend, tell a friend. And have a good fucking 2 weeks. We'll catch you towards the end of February. Peace out.